Grab your goat, grab your popcorn, grab your scotch. We're back with another crack at Anchorman. I'm Patti Negri, one of your co-hosts for the Witches Movie Coven. Let's see who else is co-hosting the show with me tonight. I'm going to start with my favorite mustache in the entire world, Richard Lale-Lillard.
Oh.
Yes, hi, that would be me. Do I have a better mustache than Ron Burgundy? Probably. I don't know, but I am Richard Lale. It is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I would be a. That is correct. I am known as a gentleman psychic. I am so easy to be found. That's me. That's who I am.
And my second favorite mustache, Courtney Buckley.
That's me. I thought that you were gonna go there the first time. Anyway, I'm gonna try this again. Take two. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been handed, or can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. We are covering Anchorman tonight, and I could not be more prepared or excited. And that's it. You stay classy, Witches Movie Coven. I'm Courtney Buckley.
And our third favorite mustache?
I am coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia, down here in the South, and I am Heather Green, and I am an author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, and a journalist and an editor covering all things occult. And tonight I will be covering Anchorman from the Deep South, and I'm very excited to be trying this whole thing, take two, again.
And I'm not really Patti Negri. My name is really Jason Mankey. I am one of the many Llewellyn authors that sometimes Heather might work with. This is The Horn God of the Witches, one of 10 books that I've written, conveniently just $3.99 on Kindle right now on Amazon. You might as well be stealing it, and you probably will be, because I'll be making like a dime from it. But go and take advantage of this sale. Tonight we're talking about Anchorman. If you were here last week, you know that we got cut short because of the fires in California. Tonight, throughout the show, we are going to put up a link to the Red Cross if you are interested in donating to the Red Cross for fire relief. A lot of us, well, our producers, Rob and Christine, evacuated last week. Patty evacuated last week. It hit really close to home for all of us. And I think a lot of us also have friends in LA that the fires have affected too. It's, a very, very serious thing. And these are houses that are not in what most people think of as fire zones. It's what happens when the wind reaches 100 miles per hour. And our thoughts, our prayers, our magic is with people in Los Angeles that we love and care about so much. And then now, what I care about and love so much are Richard Lale-Lillard's movie synopsises. I know he's had an extra week to watch all of Anchorman, and I'm sure he has, in honor of my birthday.
I love you, Jason. There are limits to my love, however. So let us talk about Anchorman. It is the story of a jerk of an anchorman who is finding himself attracted to his coworker. And then he goes to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, where he then wakes up the next morning and it's still Groundhog Day. And then at first it's like maddening. And then he wakes up the next day and it's Groundhog Day. And the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day. And that feels strangely familiar. I guess we're not really talking about that Anchorman. We're talking about SNL alum Will Ferrell. And I'm not going to say any more than that. If you haven't seen it, good. I mean, no opinion yet. If you haven't seen it, go watch. Find out for yourself. FAFO.
It does feel like a very biased view tonight on this film. But it's pretty much what we expected. I've been telling Richard Lale I think he would enjoy the second film more. But before we talk about either film, let's talk about 5 things you should know about the greatest movie ever made, Anchorman with Heather Green.
Hello, I am Heather Green from Atlanta, coming to you live, and I am going to share with you the 5 things you need to know about this film, starting with general, of course, then the team up, then the cast, the inspiration, and then, of course, the aftermath. And we have to do that because Courtney Buckley is going to be really excited about the aftermath of this movie. So let's get started with the general ideas. This film came out in 2004. It made about 26 million. It made marginal amount, but not enough to make a second film right away. It stars, of course, Will Ferrell, who is also the writer and creator, and it got mixed reviews and then was not and has since become a comedy classic. So let's move up to the team up because that's a really important aspect of this film. The writers and the director, one of the writers and the director is Adam McKay. He teamed up with Will Ferrell and eventually made a number of other films, including Anchorman 2, Step Brothers, Talladega Nights, The Other Guys, and a few others. Adam McKay also most recently did the film Don't Look Up from 2021. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. So the original idea for this film was called August Blowout, about a car dealership, but that didn't go over so well. So Will Ferrell saw some 70s anchormen on the TV and said, whoa, those guys are really sexist. Let's make a movie about them. So they came up with this great story about an anchorman or an anchor crew, a news crew heading to the wilderness and getting lost. The film had in it some singing sharks and some ninja orangutans.
Why not? Why could we not have that too?
And the studio did not like this script, so it was trashed.
Couldn't
And they
imagine
came up
why.
with what we know today as Anchorman. And so then let's move on to the cast itself. Of course, Will Ferrell being the most prominent character or most prominent actor, and he does not need any introductions. Born in 1967, Will Ferrell has won 6 Emmy Awards. He began his career at Saturday Night Live in 1995. Most recently, he has starred in Despicable Me, which there's a new one in 2024. He was in Austin Powers, Night of the Roxbury, a number of films, of course, with Adam McKay. He was the producer, and he was in Barbie 2023, and he is starring in a film called You Are Cordially Invited, which should be out in theaters the end of this month. Let's move on to Steve Carell, who was born in 1962 and was starred and most known for his role as Michael Scott in the TV show The Office. He started in the 1990s in the Dana Carvey Show. He has won Golden Globe Awards. He also is Gru in Despicable Me. And most recently, I recommend watching this movie, Asteroid City 2023 by Wes Anderson. Of course, a very interesting movie, as all Wes Anderson movies are. Next, let's move to Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd was born in 1969 and got his start in commercials and TV in the 90s. He's probably most known for being Ant-Man. He has been in a number of other movies, of course. Recently, the Ghostbusters. He was on Broadway. He will be starring in a movie called Death of a Unicorn, a supernatural horror movie in 2025. I would like to recommend that you guys see him in Wanderlust 2012, another comedy where Paul Rudd is at his best. Next, let's go to Christina Applegate. Of course, born in 1971, she is most known for being Kelly Bundy in Married with Children, where she got her start. Of course, she got an Emmy for that role, but has since gone on to do a lot of rom-coms and comedy. Hall Pass, Bad Moms, one of my favorites. And also, and most recently, she has announced that she is unfortunately suffering from multiple sclerosis, and she has retired from acting. And that is unfortunate. She did get her start in television, was in films like Father Murphy and Silver Spoons, had a lot of early roles as a child actor. And I would like to add that she was in a satanic horror film called The Jaws of Satan at the age of 10. If you watch the film,
Can we watch that for the show? We have to watch that.
We can add that to the list. Jaws of Satan. It is a film about when the satanic element of the film is embodied in giant snakes. She is most notably, you can actually recognize her without fail, knowing that she is in it. She is 10 years old. We also have David Koechner. He is probably the least known of them outside of this film. He starred in Krampus, which we reviewed here, 2015. He, of course, does bits on The Office as well. And finally, my final cast member I'd like to highlight is Fred Willard. He was born in 1933 and died in 2020. He was in many of the Christopher Guest films. He started in television, was in Get Smart, the Bob Hope shows, and in lots of TV shows through his era. Christopher Guest, of course, if you don't know those movies, I highly recommend them. You have Waiting for Guffman, you have This Is Spinal Tap. There's a number of Christopher Guest movies you must go see, and Fred Willard, it is in many of those. Just briefly on the cast, you also have to note that we have Seth Rogen, Catherine Hahn, Tim Robbins, Luke Wilson, Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn, and Jack Black, and a number of other highlights that you have to see that are notable in this film. So let's quickly go to the inspiration next. So this film was obviously about an anchorman, and Will Smith saw an anchorman on television, as I said, and the anchorman it was based on is called Harold Green. The man is still alive. Do we have the picture of them? There he is. That's Harold Green. He was an anchorman, a real anchorman in LA and San Diego in the 70s. And he was the inspiration to this for this character that we have here, Ron Burgundy. Now, there was another anchorman called Mort Krim who claimed he was out of Philadelphia, a different place, other side of the country, who claimed that his character, Will Ferrell, Ron Burgundy was based on him, but that is absolutely untrue. But however, even though Mort Krim claimed that, his co-anchor, Jessica Savage, who eventually wound up on the NBC Nightly News, was actually the inspiration for Veronica Corningstone. And additionally, his other co-anchor, Jack White, was a consultant on the film. So finally, let's get to the aftermath. Of course, you know that there was an Anchorman 2 in 2013, a number of years later, after it was clear that the film was a success. But shortly after, in 2004, Adam McKay produced a movie called Wake Up, Ron Burgundy, based on the outtakes from the film. Adam McKay, not all directors have a lot of outtakes when they make a film. This was the way Adam McKay works. He had enough outtakes to make a second film immediately, to put together another story. So that is out there as well. We also had the Ron Burgundy podcast, started in 2019. There's about, I think, 6 or 8 episodes a year. It is still going on. And of course, Jason Mankey has the Ron Burgundy, what does it say? Led me off at the top, my classy life and other musings. There you go.
He wrote a hell of a book.
Yeah, so there you go. Ron Burgundy is everywhere and still strong. And there is, of course, finally, the Ron Burgundy on Broadway, the musical, Anchorman, the musical.
No, what? Get out. Get out.
Well, now that I got that reaction, that's excellent. It actually was, it never got on stage. So they planned it. They were writing music for it. They had the whole thing going. They had all the prep work, and then they realized after about 6 months or a year, when the actual original cast decided they were not going to be the ones on stage, would anyone actually come to see Anchorman without the original cast? So they panned the whole thing, and that was the end of that. So there is no Anchorman the musical, but there almost was. It was the musical that almost was. It's almost like a Christmas
Odin's
movie.
Raven. That would have been fantastic.
Great. Odin's Raven, yes. So that is out. That's my report on this movie. And yes, did I say Will Smith instead of Will Ferrell? I saw everybody laughing. I actually I caught myself, and that's just absolutely hysterical. So no, it was not Will Smith. It was Will Ferrell.
I just am glad to see that you're colorblind.
It's Will somebody. I don't know. Whatever.
And there probably will never be an Anchorman 3 because Adam McKay and Will Ferrell had a huge falling out. over a show about the Los Angeles Lakers. Will Ferrell wanted to play Jerry Buss, the owner of the Lakers, and Adam McKay said no. And lots of problems. So there will probably never be an Anchorman 3, which causes Jason great pain and suffering.
Well, and I'm
And it causes
Oh,
Richard
boy.
Lale to smile just a little
well.
bit.
Thank you very much. I am done here from Atlanta, and back to you in the studio. Stay classy, Coven.
The microphone was perfect, Heather. It was
Yes.
fantastic. Fantastic. So I know everyone has opinions about this film, and one of us hasn't spoken very much at all yet tonight. So, Courtney, what are your feelings about Anchorman?
Well, first of all, the movie came out in 2004, which is the year that I graduated high school. So I was a young and impressionable teen at the time. And it has never been more apparent how influential this movie was on my life as when I watched it for last week and realized how much I say from Anchorman in my daily vernacular. So that's something. But also, because it was so influential, I feel like I feel a little like a sense of protection over this movie. And so I was concerned, it took us a long time and the occasion of Jason's birthday to be allowed to cover this movie on Witches Movie Coven. And I was afraid that we would have some naysayers either on the panel or in the comments who would say, why are we doing this? This is not a witch movie. And I'm here to tell you that you could not be more wrong, because I compiled a list of 10 solid reasons why Anchorman is in fact a witch movie, and I would love to share it with all of you now. And I will take no notes, and I am correct and your opinions are wrong if they differ from this. Just so you know. Okay. So as we've discussed, they say things like Great Odin's Raven and by the beard of Zeus, obviously. Number 2, Ron can talk to animals. So that's pretty witchy. He also has a familiar. Number 3, Baxter is his familiar. Very clearly. Number 4, Sex Panther, the cologne, is actually a love potion because 60% of the time it works every time. So there's that. Number 5, Ron Burgundy and Veronica Corningstone do sex magic to astral project to Pleasure Town.
Holy crap, this is great, Courtney.
Yeah.
This is so good.
Number 6, when they're on their date, they eat fondue from a cauldron. Number 7, when Ron is talking about the wedding that he wants to have with Veronica, he says, garlands of fresh herbs, and we will dance till the sun rises. That's a ritual. You cannot speak to me otherwise. Catherine Hahn, aka Agatha, from Agatha All Along, is a confirmed witch because of Agatha All Along and is in this movie. There's a crossover. So therefore there is a confirmed witch in this movie. I'll hear nothing else about that. Number 9, each news channel is a coven, especially when they all band together and have their giant fight. It is the covens are battling. And number 10, their suits are magical because they pull large items from inside their suits. And you can't tell me that there's any other way that they do that other than magic. So you're welcome, everybody. Do not panic. This is a witch movie. We are staying within our realm. There you go.
Bravo. Bravo. Richard Lale is not clapping. There was no bravo.
I think those are some very intriguing reasonings. I think that they are some hoops
feel
to
like
jump
they were
through.
obvious and just there for the taking.
I'm just ready with my goat to neigh at any moment. I'm just ready.
I don't really see it as a witch movie. I see it more as a what movie? Like, what did I watch movie? That's what
You're wrong.
See.
Incorrect. Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome, everyone in the comments. I know how correct I am, and you're welcome for opening your eyes to this these clear facts that cannot be disputed no matter what Richard Lale says.
I love the 1970s, but only because they were 50 years ago, and most people have actually forgotten what the 70s were like, including how awful the cologne was.
That's
I
true.
mean, Drakkar, can you imagine? Those of this, look at this musk by English Leather. Ugh,
Wait.
like, and the Old
The Musk
Spice.
one, look at that. I mean, you have so many options to go to Smell Town. You've got your
Wow.
shave cream, you've got your soap, you've got your aftershave. I mean, it is deep. It is
That'll
deep.
put-
I can't breathe right now thinking about it.
That'll
I
put
think
some hair on your chest, as we just saw.
I think
Move on,
I think
Musk.
that carried over to the 80s because I'm thinking Richard Lale. I'm smelling Drakkar Noir from the 80s. I feel like that was really my high school era, where you walked into my high
Yes.
school and half the boys in the school had bathed in it that morning. I think that was in 70s. It's most
Oh,
certainly.
my nostrils.
Most
And none of
certainly.
us really bought real Drakkar. We all bought off-brand Drakkar Noir. Because real Drakkar Noir was quite expensive, but you could get like Nakar Drawar for $8.
So, Jason, did you have that
I don't
Drakkar
think I ever had a
Noir?
bottle, but on my church youth group trips, many kids had it, and I remember the smell quite vividly. And I
Yes.
think I probably doused myself in it a few times. I did have Timberline
It's about 90
aftershave, even though in 5th grade I had no reason to own an aftershave because I mean, I'm right now the 4th smallest mustache in the coven because at 52 I still can't grow facial hair. You know,
can have
one of
some of
these
mine.
days puberty will kick in and I'll be very excited about it. But I was very optimistic in the 5th grade and had my Timberline aftershave. Yes.
But it was replaced. All of those horrible smells were replaced in the 90s by
That's
Axe
bad.
body spray. And that is
And that
another.
only works 40% of the time, every time. It's
That's
not
the
nearly
smell
as
of-
good as Sex Panther. Not nearly
No.
close.
That's the smell of my whole life with a teenager in my house. He announced the other day that he put cologne on, and I was like, "What do you mean cologne?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's called Axe." And I was like, "Okay,
Run away!"
first of all, not cologne; it's body spray, and do not speak to me of the scriptures. I was there when they were written."
If it burns, that means it's working. That is a winner of a comment right there, because that is the case with those aftershaves.
That is for sure.
I will say, oh, go ahead, Richard Love.
Remember, I was going to say,
Yeah.
remember Macaulay Culkin, who in the home that famous scene, because it wasn't that, oh, I realized I'm home alone. It was because the aftershave burns. It really will burn you.
And I had been there with my grandfather's Old Spice because it's what every kid growing up in the Midwest wants to smell like Popeye, like a sailor just coming in from port, having spent 3 months on the open sea without a shower, right? That's how we all want to smell. It's the best way to attract a mate.
I
Hey,
mean,
Old Spice is still going strong. That's what we had. That's what the kids in my house all have. Kraken.
It's true.
And
Kraken is good.
yeah.
I use it.
I'll admit it's
well, as far as Old Spice goes, I actually like smelling
All
like
right.
semen.
oh.
Yikes.
Oh.
And he doesn't
other
like
news.
Anchorman. Come on.
And now
After
to the
that.
weather.
Speaking of the weather, I think that that the character, what's his name?
Brick
What's his name?
Tamlin.
Rick Tamlin.
Brick, my sweet
Rick.
Brick.
That's
love
right,
Lamb.
Rick. I thought you were saying Rick. I'm like, it's not Rick.
Brick.
He's one of my absolute. I love Steve Carell anyway. So he's one of my favorites. But I love his character. He can't. Every time he's on that screen, I'm laughing. Everything he does, he's brilliant in this movie. So yeah, I'm a big Brick fan in this one. And I love this movie. I loved it when I saw it. I'm a big, Will Ferrell can do no wrong. So
Yeah.
Except for Bewitched.
That wasn't his fault. I'm
His
not
fault.
blaming him on that one. It's a terrible movie. But yes, he is in some bad movies, but he can still do no wrong. And I love this movie. And I'm kind of like Courtney, not this time around when I watched it to review for this, but we watched it, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. And I realized that my partner Ben, who I mentioned a bunch, half of everything he quotes from a movie comes from this, and I didn't realize it until I had rewatched it, and we've been together a long time, and then one day we rewatched it. I said, "Oh my goodness, everything you say comes from this movie. Everything I say comes from Airplane." Like, talk about. I love Airplane
Oh, I
too,
love
another witch
Airplane.
movie.
Don't call me
But
Shirley.
everything he says comes from this movie, and I didn't even realize it. And I'm like, oh my goodness! So many of the quotes in this movie. We had Ron Burgundy napkins in the house at one point. I mean, it's just he will randomly say stuff, and it's really funny, like all the things. So I had the same kind of come to Odin meeting when I saw this when I saw this movie again. I'm like, yes, this feels like home, man. This is right.
I was at a pagan festival a couple years ago, and I was driving with someone else to Llewellyn's offices, and it was a local author, and she was driving us there, and I was with my wife Ari, and she called us snobby, and decided that she hated us after that, and we were trying to think why she hated us, and the only thing we could think of is we speak in a weird world of quotes from movies and television that's almost our own private language that only a few people can understand, which in this case are Heather and Courtney, because we quote Anchorman incessantly, like, Brick killed a guy. You might want to lay low because you're probably wanted for murder. I mean, and the whole San Diego whale's vagina thing, anytime anyone says San Diego, I say that, right?
I went
All
to
the time.
San Diego. It was the best day of my life because I was insufferable in the car on the way there, because all I would say would be San Diego means a whale's vagina. Like for like it was a verbal tick the entire time I went to San Diego. Oh,
I once had a San Diego, and then I went to the doctor
boy.
and they gave me an ointment.
Also,
anytime anyone says San Diego, though, I bring up that it's a German word, and some people laugh because they know where the joke is from, and then other people look at you like you're absolutely crazy, and my wife just goes, "It's a quote from Anchorman," and then moves on with the day. But it's, for a lot of people, though, this was something that was on cable all the time, and you could just watch 20 minutes of it and then change the channel, because it's really like a series of sketches in a lot of ways, and it absorbed into our brains during this period of time before we streamed everything.
But that's the way Airplane wound up like that for me, is because it was on HBO and we recorded it onto a VHS at the time, because that was the way we did it. There was no streaming, and we watched it. And I remember we would go over my parents' friend's house, and they had the first VHS we knew, and they had like 5 tapes. And so we wound up watching Airplane over and over and over and over. And I mean, my kids will quote Airplane, not knowing it's from Airplane. They just say stuff, and it's become, Anchorman has become similar to that, where Ben will randomly just be doing something and he'll look at something and say, well, 60% of the time it works all the time, or like he'll just make these quotes. And one time he did say something, and the person looked at him. I said, it's an Anchorman quote, similar to your Ari saying that. Just don't worry, that was an Anchorman.
When in Rome. When in Rome.
When in Rome.
That doesn't apply here.
I was so insufferable in Rome. I waited my entire life to say "when is Rome" inappropriately, like I was Ron Burgundy while in Rome. And I think I slept on the couch one night because Ari couldn't handle it anymore, but I deserved it.
I have a very exciting and important news story also. When I was in San Diego, we did 2 things. We went to Old Town, and before that we went to the Maritime Museum. And the scream I screamed when I was watching Anchorman, and they did a shot of the Star of India, and I wrote in all capital letters, I went on the boat. I was on that boat. I was on the boat in San Diego. It was the best thing. I was like, I was there. I took a picture of it. I sent it to Nathan. I was like, Nathan, this is an Anchorman. We were on this boat, and he was not impressed. He was not. I was like, don't act like you're not impressed, but he was definitely not impressed.
He'll
I
grow
was
into
very
it.
excited. Yeah.
He'll grow into it.
That's so funny. So have you seen Anchorman 2? I know Jason has. And I actually did enjoy it. I don't remember it as much because I've only seen it once. But I remember liking it. I remember thinking, oh, this is not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
I think Anchorman 2 is brilliant. I don't think there's a ton of social commentary in Anchorman 1. And I know this sounds crazy to say that there's social commentary in Anchorman 2, but it's really about the rise of the 24-hour news cycle and how we turn dumb things into news. And it's really spot on. Like, there's a moment where he narrates a car chase. Remember how we used to watch car chases on cable news? And they're nothing, right? It's not a big deal. And they kind of let you in on that joke. And it's about why the news is full of stories about animals and patriotism and stuff. It really is poking a lot of fun at Fox News. Adam McKay has always been very loud about his liberal and progressive beliefs, and so is Will Ferrell. And they really hit that home in Anchorman 2. It's not quite as quotable as the first one, though your hair looks like popcorn is one of my favorite things to say to people. And they rename one of the Anchormen Jack Lame instead of Jack Lime. It's funny. It's a little longer than it needs to be, but I do think it's a very clever film. The one that's not good is the made from the cutting room floor of Anchorman, which is why it's very hard to find. There was a theme in the first one where there were some bank robbers in San Diego, and that was going to be where the climax was. Amy Poehler was one of the bank robbers, and that thing the whole thing got kind of cut out of the film, and they replaced it with the panda birth at the end of the movie. But Wake Up San Diego is not a very good movie, though it's still kind of funny in places.
There is a little story that I have not told a lot of people in a very long time. This is something that I actually was not going to tell anybody openly, and well, why not? We're in a coven. So I actually worked for the local news station. I was not an anchorman. I was, in fact, the cameraman, and I was cute and young, and I was like 20, and I was like Seth Rogen, and it was the morning show. I had to be there at 3 a.m. in the morning, and then we would do the morning show at 6, and then I was there until 7. And then, in those days would normally go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and then wake up at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. So my cycle was really off for a while, but it was a morning show with Seth and Tina, and Tina Potoff and Seth. Oh God, I can't remember his name. Seth Smith, I think. Seth Smith. That's not his name, but that's what comes up. But it started out where I would have to go in, and we had to cut the news with the little reels, like the back and forth. And the news that they would put on was, woman walks by and sees the Virgin Mary in a tree. The tree sap is crying, and it's clearly the Virgin Mary. And I'm like, really? I have to, this? But it got to the point where Seth and Tina were really, really lovely. They would banter back and forth. But the problem was that we would sometimes go to get on air, and we wouldn't have hosts. They'd still be putting on their makeup together. And it sort of, the task fell upon me. Half an hour, thanks. 15 minutes, thanks. 5 minutes, 30 seconds. Like that was, and they'd be coming in, rushing, putting on all their things. It was fun. It was okay. I mean,
did they share a dressing room?
Good memory.
Did they have a thing
Yes.
going on? Are you sure?
No. Well, it's
Mhm.
been now for a few years, so I'm not going to say when, but one of them
Fair.
played for my
Okay.
team.
Did you have a thing with
Yeah.
Seth? Oh,
I did not. I did not have a thing with Seth, but there was one funny story that Tina did, and her name was Tina Potoff, and for KSN local news channel 7, KOAM TV channel 7, and Tina had this lovely beaded jacket, and it had the matching top with the beads that went around the inside, and she says, Rich, what do you think of my outfit? And I said, oh, you look really lovely. She said, thanks. I stole it. I'm going to hell, but I look great. And I went, wait, what? She said, well, I didn't actually steal it, but like I took it to the front, and I didn't realize that it was 2 separate pieces. And the name tag, like the price tag, was tucked inside the other one. And I didn't know that. So I just thought I was buying the whole thing. And then I got it home, and I was like, well, I'm going to wear it. And so she did. She wore it right
and
there
then
on the
20
air.
minutes after the show was over, the police showed up and she was escorted directly to jail. Yeah, no.
Right? Grand theft beaded blouse or something.
Also, when we were talking
That was
talking
my
about
news
famous
story.
people in this movie, did we mention Danny Trejo, who is a bartender in this movie and steals his whole 3 minutes? Also, Fred Armisen as the
Funny.
owner of the jazz club. It's so packed full of
Excuse
great
me, the
people.
what club? The Yaz Club.
Yas. Yes.
Play some Yaz flute.
Yogging.
I wasn't going to go there. I actually drug Ari to this to see it in the theaters because I was already a Will Ferrell fan when this movie was released. So like we were there opening weekend. And I remember how angry she was that I took her to see this movie. And my little brother came with us too, and he was not happy. People just humor me, which is really sweet. And we all left, and they were like, Jason, you picked right this time. Because it was one of those movies, especially in that theater experience, where you are crying because you're laughing so hard, unless you're Richard Lale. But that's okay. That's okay.
Well, and it's really hard, and I have to just kind of dial us back or take it to a serious point. Comedy is very, very tough to get right. It's tougher than drama, to get the rhythm, to get it. And Will Ferrell does it very well, and it's also very personal. So one person likes one kind of comedy, another person likes another kind of comedy, and I tend not to like Saturday Night Live based movies. And most of them are garbage, and most of them are just, they take the skits and try to extend them into a movie, and it's not successful. Some of the ones Will Ferrell had been in are in that realm, but this one really does it. And he did a number of films. I think that came after this: Talladega Nights, Step Brothers, all these things. These movies are really well done comedies, and it may not be your taste. Like, obviously Richard is not Richard Lale's comedy taste, but they have such a chance of backfiring so royally bad. But this one didn't, and an Airplane was another one, not a Saturday Night Live, but that one also could have backfired really bad, but they just hit it right. So many Saturday Night Live folks have done movies that have not been
terrible.
Good. They're
Absolutely
terrible. The only thing in this movie is terrible. I'm just going to say this. You guys might guess this. I'm not too fond of the whole bear scene at the end where they're fighting them. I think they went a little bit over the line for me there, where they're fighting bears and the dog's talking to the bears. I'm like, okay, this is my least favorite part of the movie, but you might have guessed that. So
I mean, I think a lot of that
I forgive them for it.
I think a lot of that has to do with the reshoots, right? Because that was not supposed to be the end of the film.
Maybe.
And it does feel a little bit rushed, but your heart soars because Baxter is alive. And he didn't even bother to speak Spanish that time. He actually spoke in dog English so Ron could understand him, which was quite nice. And
I was happy.
He speaks bear. I mean, Baxter is a mystical, magical creature, as Courtney has already pointed out.
You're welcome.
They could have left in him arriving and talking to the bear if they had maybe the fight scene. But then again, having Brick cuddling with the bear was very funny.
West Mantooth almost like pushing him back into the bear pit.
With
Yeah.
security
I'm
guards and
forgiving
or
them.
police standing right next to that and just allowing it to happen.
Yes.
Vince Vaughn is brilliant in this movie,
Yes.
though, and he's only probably has 10 lines, and he nails every one of them.
Everyone.
And he has a small cameo in Anchorman 2, and when he shows up, you just yell, "Yes, yes!" Yeah, if only we could see his mother, that would have been great. Because
Dorothy
she
Mantooth is a saint.
That's right. Speaking of Dorothy Mantooth being a saint, I know you have 13 pages of quotes, so I feel like we should get to that sooner rather than later.
First of all, I would like to say that Dorothy Mantooth is a saint is one of the lines that I say literally at least weekly, if not more. All right, let's get into this, folks. Buckle up. It's going to be a long one. From the opening credits, which I thought was hilarious, it says, the following is based on actual events. Only the names, locations, and events have been changed, which is fantastic. And then the narrator goes on to say, there was a time before cable, when the local anchorman reigned supreme, when people believed everything they heard on TV. There was an age when only men were allowed to read the news. I thought that was topical and hilarious. The narrator also says he had a voice that could make a wolverine purr. In other words, Ron Burgundy was the balls. And then Ron starts and he's like, I look good. I mean, really good. Hey, everyone, come and see how good I look. And then when he's doing the theater kid in me, when he's doing his little vocal warm-ups, and he says, how now, brown cow? How now, brown cow? And then he's talking to someone else, someone off screen, and he's like, how are you? You look actually nice tonight. Maybe don't wear a bra next time. But then he's also doing the no, not you, her. And then Jason's line from earlier, I love scotch. Scotchy, scotch, scotch. Here it goes down into my belly. And then he says, I'm on right now. I don't believe you. And I feel like that happens to us sometimes when we're cackling. Audrey, I look like hell. I've got bags under my eyes. What's that? If you were a man, I would punch you. I would punch you right in the mouth. That's Bush League. I'm going to skip over the ones that we've already said. Well, hello. You pointed to your boobies. We've been coming to the same party for 12 years now, and in no way is that depressing. He says, you have an absolutely breathtaking hiney. I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal. People know me. I'm very important. I have many leather-bound books, and my apartment smells of rich mahogany. And then speaking to his familiar, you pooped in the refrigerator and you ate the whole wheel of cheese? How'd you do that? I'm not even mad. That's amazing. Brick says, I ate a big red candle. Then they're talking about diversity. And he goes, what the hell is diversity? And Champ, I think Champ, I can't remember who says it, but it goes, well, I could be wrong, but I believe diversity is an old, oh no, Champ says, what the hell is diversity? And Ron says, well, I could be wrong, but I believe diversity is an old wooden ship that was used during the Civil War era. And the boss goes, Ron, I would be surprised if the affiliates were concerned about the lack of an old wooden ship, but nice try. Ron, are you paying attention? Nope. Oh, and this one I say all the time too. It's Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady. That's a scientific fact. And then Brick goes, I don't know what we're yelling about. Loud noises.
Oh, noises.
And then another one that I say constantly is, I read somewhere that their periods attract bears. The bears can smell the menstruation. And then when they meet up with West Mantooth, nice clothes, gentlemen. I didn't know the Salvation Army was having a sale. And then Brick goes, hey, where'd you get those clothes? At the toilet store? And then Champ says, I will smash your face into a car windshield and then take your mother, Dorothy Mantooth, out for a nice seafood dinner and never call her again. And then it bears repeating, but Dorothy Mantooth is a saint. I say this one all the time too. I hate you, Ron Burgundy. I hate you. And then
I said that one a few times.
The boss, when it cuts to the boss on the phone with like his kid's school like 18 times, every time it gets more and more unhinged. But this one he said, I think my son is just going through a phase. I have no idea where he would have gotten a hold of German pornography. But you and I are both adults and have seen our share of pornographic materials. Sister Margaret. And then when they're talking about Sex Panther, he says, I'll give this little cookie an hour before we're doing the no pants dance. Time to musk up. It's called Sex Panther by Odeon. It's illegal in 9 countries. Yep, it's made with bits of real panther, so you know it's good. And Ron says, oh, it's quite pungent. It's a formidable scent. It stings the nostrils.
Like Axe body spray.
And then there's a string of really good quotes right after that.
He says, Brian, I'm going to be honest with you. That smells like pure gasoline. And he says, they've done studies, 60% of the time it works every time. Let's go see if we can make this little kitty purr. And then he goes outside. And everyone starts screaming. And someone yells, it smells like a used diaper filled with Indian food. And then it says, smells like a turd covered in burnt hair. And then someone says, it smells like Bigfoot's Richard Lale. Or Richard. And then Brick, when Brick tries to ask Veronica out, he says, I would like to extend to you an invitation to the pants party. And then she's like, are you trying to say that there is a party in your pants and I'm invited? He was like, yes. And then she says, did Champ tell you to say that? He goes, no. Yes, he did. And then Ron asks her out and he tries to say it's not a date. And then she says yes. And he's all excited. And she's trying to tell him, and he then goes, Mr. Burgundy, you have a massive erection. And then that's when he says, don't act like you're not impressed. And then he reads everything that they put on the teleprompter. So he goes, I'm Ron Burgundy. Discovered by the Germans in 1904, they named it San Diego, which of course in German means a whale's vagina. Oh God. And then when they're astral projecting to Pleasure Town, he says, what if just for tonight, we weren't co-workers, we were co-people. And then I'm storming your castle on my steed, milady. I friggin' love you. And she says, I friggin' love you back. And then he runs into work and he's screaming all about how they're in love. We're in love. And Brick says, I love carpet. I love desk. They say, Brick, are you just looking at things in your office and saying that you love them? And he goes, I love lamp. And they say, do you really love the lamp? Or are you just saying it because you saw it? I love lamp.
I love lamp.
I love lamp.
We're only on page 3 too, Richard.
He says, do you really want to know? Do you really want to know what love's like? And Brick goes, more than anything in the world, Ron.
Are you gonna sing?
No. Gonna find
they don't have copyright clearances for that. Okay. I screamed when I saw Whiskerous Maximus ready to do battle in the arena because Jason loves Gladiator, so I wrote that down. This burrito is delicious, but it is filling.
And then he throws it out the window and hits Jack Black. He goes, "That's my chopper you just thrashed, brosif." And then he punts Baxter and he goes, "That's how I roll." And then Ron is not showing up to the thing because the man punted Baxter. And he says, and then Veronica's trying to get on the news. So she's like, "The city needs its news, and you are going to deprive them of that because I have breasts, exquisite breasts. I'm good at 3 things: fighting, screwing, and reading the news. Now, I've already done one of those today. What's the other one going to be?" And they go,
Screwing.
"Fighting." Oh my God. And then my favorite thing, and I say all of these all the time, when he's in the telephone booth and he's calling and he's crying and he's like, "The man punted Baxter. The man punted Baxter. I'm in a glass case of emotion." And then "You're not Ron." Brick says, "You're not Ron." And I wrote down, "You scorpion woman. What is this, amateur hour?" Oh my God. One of my favorite scenes of the whole movie is when it's the end credits of the news and they're like supposed to be looking like they're just talking casually to each other, but they're really saying, I think I wrote down everything. "You're a real hooker and I'm going to slap you in public. You've got a dirty, whorish mouth. That's what you have. I'm going to punch you in the ovary. A straight shot right to the baby maker." And then they do, "You're watching Channel 4 News with 5-time Emmy Award-winning anchor Ron Burgundy and Tits McGee." And Veronica goes, "Good evening, San Diego. I'm Veronica Corningstone. Tits McGee is on vacation." And then Ron goes, "And I'm Ron Burgundy. You want to dance, Ronnie?" And he pulls out the knife. "I want a polka." I thought that was pretty funny. Here, they're all, this is during the Coven fight. And one of them says, "You're about to be in dead place." And then I think that's the one that gets his arm cut off, Luke Wilson. "Tonight's top story: the sewers run red with Burgundy's blood." Where'd Jason go? I scared him.
Yeah, I think you did.
Uh-oh. Well,
He's going to watch the movie. He's enjoying this so much.
Well, I'm just replaying the whole movie because I wrote down everything.
No, the laughter got to me, and I like clicked something, and I think that's what happened.
Rule number 1: no touching of the hair or face, and that's it. Let's do this. And then after the fight, Ron is sitting in the chair, and I say this all the time too, and he goes, "Boy, that escalated quickly." And Brick says, "I stabbed a man in the heart." "Did you throw a trident?" "Yeah, there were horses and a man on fire, and I killed a guy with a trident." And he goes, "Brick, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. You should find yourself a safe house or a relative close by. Lay low for a while because you're probably wanted for murder." "I'm not a baby. I'm a man, an anchor man. You are a smelly pirate hooker. Why don't you go back to your home on Whore Island?" "Knights of Columbus, that hurt." And then, of course, the pivotal, "And I'm Ron Burgundy. Go F yourself, San Diego. You're my hero, Ron, and you come out with stink like that. Poop, you poop mouth. I get all the poop out of your mouth." And then the phone rings. It's Veronica. She's calling Ron, but he thinks it's Baxter. He says, "Baxter, is that you? Baxter, bark twice if you're in Milwaukee." "I'm completely miserable, San Diego. It's so damn hot. Milk was a bad choice." Someone tells Veronica to get them a sandwich, and she goes, "Okay, I'll get you a sandwich, and then I'll show you the ratings where you're number 2 to a woman. Ouch, don't lose any more hair over it." "I'm expressing my inner anguish through the majesty of song. News team, assemble." Ron, I know it sounds harsh, but I think when she's in the bear pit, I know it sounds harsh, but God does not want her to live. "I immediately regret this decision. News team, let's hunt. Hit him in the uvula." And then Brooke is on the bear, and he's, "Hey Ron, I'm riding a furry tractor." And then when Baxter's back, "I will lick you in front of everyone to show my joy." And someone goes, "Boy, he really likes that dog." "Today we spell redemption, RON." Veronica says, there are literally thousands of men I should be with instead, but I'm 72% sure that I love you. You stay classy, planet Earth. I'm going to shoot. Oh, this is, I think, from the end. During the credits when they're doing like alternate things that they did. I'm going to shoot you with a BB gun when you're not looking in the back of the head. Brick says, I drank a lava lamp. It wasn't lava. I ate a whole bunch of fiberglass insulation. It wasn't cotton candy like that guy said. My stomach's itchy. And then the quote that Richard Lale will appreciate the most because it sums it all up entirely. This is the most ridiculous thing ever. The end.
Boom.
Mic drop. Heather, drop your mic for me.
And there's still there's still 15 quotes that weren't even said that I say with a lot of frequency. But that's certainly enough for tonight. On my birthday morning, though, Courtney texted me, and I think we spent 30 minutes trading Anchorman quotes back and forth.
And only speaking in Anchorman quotes and gifs. And that was
it was one of the best things that happened on my birthday. But as we're running out of time, it is time for the Mankey Movie Minute. And of course, I wrote a good one, I hope, for Anchorman. Sometimes there's an event so pivotal in the history of cinema that all others pale in comparison. Such was one movie picture released in the summer of 2004. A moment so momentous that world peace was declared within moments of its premiere. Other movies in production simply shut down for the rest of that year, knowing they would never be able to top it. For such is the greatness of Anchorman, the legend of Ron Burgundy. At that year's Oscars, Anchorman won 12 Academy Awards. They were the expected wins: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay. But Anchorman swept the acting categories, fetching statues for Will Ferrell and Christina Applegate in lead roles. A young Steve Carell bested his castmate Paul Rudd for Best Supporting Actor. And despite being given only 8 minutes of screen time, Kathryn Hahn took home a Best Supporting Actress statue. Sound editing, sound mixing, and cinematography were all predictable wins for this most outstanding film. And in a movie where salon quality hair is a requirement, it easily took home the Best Hair and Makeup Oscar. The biggest surprise, was the Best Special Visual Effects Oscar. But who will ever forget the realism and heartbreaker when Ron Burgundy's beloved Spanish-speaking dog, Baxter, was punted off a bridge by Jack Black? The CGI was mesmerizing, and going forward, the standard for visual effects. Anchorman even grabbed the Oscar for Best Original Song, despite Afternoon Delight being 25 years old in 2004. Indeed, after the Oscars, it was universally agreed upon by both critics and the movie-going public that Anchorman was now the greatest movie ever made. Nothing could ever top it. Music scholars hailed the film for bringing jazz back into the American mainstream, and by the year 2006, learning to play jazz flute had not become simply a fad, but a way of life for anyone with a true love and appreciation for music. Iconic performers such as Taylor Swift, Lana Del Rey, and Kendrick Lamar would credit Ron Burgundy with inspiring their love of music. Such is the influence of Anchorman that all 8 Ivy League universities teach classes espousing upon its greatness. The academic paper, Gender Disparity, the Collapse of Patriarchy, and the Underexpressed True Value of Rich Mahogany, won Harvard professor Andre Schleifer not only kudos from colleagues, but also a Nobel Prize. Scholars will likely spend generations analyzing, parsing, and debating the true meaning of the greatest film ever made. It has become required viewing in high school history classes, for no project better tells the story of America and its most beautiful city, Santiago, which of course is German for a whale's vagina. The repercussions of Anchorman range far and wide. For 20 years, Ron has been America's most popular baby name for both boys and girls. The term whammy has become inescapable in sports media, and Sex Panther has been the world's top cologne for 2 consecutive decades. And tridents have overtaken nunchucks, swords, and axes as the preferred weapons in all battles between news teams. What is left for Anchorman? What more needs to be said about this iconic snapshot in time? Indeed, the term Anchorman has become a synonym for true greatness.
In all battles between news teams.
All right, we are gonna go over really soon. Wands up, wands down for this film.
Where's my wand?
Does Richard Lell even have have one? Oh,
I wish I had tried it.
I'm gonna go up.
really?
I am going to go up, not because I love the film, because I hate it.
Mhm.
However, I am going to go up because it
Yes.
brings joy. And anything that can bring joy is worthy of an upvote. This is not as good as the Muppets
Or
Wizard
the
of
killing
Oz,
tree.
which brings so much joy, but it brings joy, and that's why I'm voting up. Not for the film, not for the acting, not for the costumes, not for the music. I don't care how many awards they
13
won.
Academy Awards.
I'm voting
13.
up for Jason. I'm voting up for Jason. I'm voting up because it does bring joy. And
That is a
that's
good
why my
reason.
wand is up.
Pretty
That's
much wands
fair.
up, except for Robert Hicks, who really wishes there was a spell that would allow him to unsee this movie, which is fair. Thanks for giving it a go. Anyways, we appreciate you. All right. Before we cackle tonight, does anybody have anything coming up that they want to talk about?
I do
Nope.
not have anything coming up other than Serpent and the Rainbow next week for Witches Movie Coven.
That's our next film.
Mhm.
On Thursday, I start teaching a class about the god Kronos at Under the Ancient Oaks, which is a website run by my friend John Beckett. If you're interested, you can Google that and it will make sense. And I will be at Convocation in Detroit, Michigan at the end of February. I think. Courtney, anything?
Happy belated birthday to you, Jason. Thank you for choosing such a gem for us. Also, if we could put the American Red Cross thing back up there just one more time to donate to fire relief if anyone feels so inclined. And that's
Excellent.
it. I will be cackling and quoting Anchorman for the rest of my life. So
I think every show going forward, we must quote Anchorman. Richard
I
Lell,
will slip
anything?
one in.
I will not be quoting Anchorman, but no, I don't have anything coming up, excepting the fact I have a massive boner. Is
Mr.
that the
Burgundy,
correct-
you have a massive
that-
erection.
erection. It's a massive erection. No, I don't have anything coming up for right now. Anyway, I'm easy to be found. I'm at thegentlemanpsychic.com. I'm a little bit of everywhere.
All right, happy
That's it.
birthday, Kelvin, a little early. And I think we only have one thing left to do, and that is
You
cackle
stay
away.
classy, Witches Movie Coven.
You stay classy,
Stay
which is movie,
classy.
Kevin. Stay classy. Have a pleasant tonight. Stay classy.